If everybody could take a seat, we'll get cracking. Welcome, students, faculty, and friends, and welcome to each of the candidates. Thank you so much for coming. It's an honor for us that you've taken the time to speak to our students and our broader community the day before the election. In the perpetually harsh glare of national politics, it's easy to forget that real politics start at the local level in towns and cities like ours. You can be role models for this generation and inspire them to think about politics as a career path. And as such, it's wonderful that you're able to speak with us today. Every once in a while, somebody will say to me, "Boy, you have a hard job as head of school." Fair enough, that can be true, but on my toughest days, I can always go down to Miss Nielsen's kindergarten class and get mobbed by loving 6-year-olds. Not so much as mayor. The job of mayor is truly, truly a hard job. In our Oakland, it's particularly so. You have to build on our many strengths, our diversity, our geography, our proximity to San Francisco, Silicon Valley, and UC Berkeley, one of the best public universities in the world, our port, our history, our sports teams, a thriving business community, and our resiliency. On the other hand, you also have to tackle immense problems: violent crime, generational poverty, urban decay, unexpected and complex events like Occupy movement, a poor national reputation, being prepared to receive a phone call at 3 a.m. about a young person who's been tragically murdered, all the while managing a $1 billion budget. Now that is a tough job. So in light of this, I want us to take this opportunity on behalf of our students, faculty, and friends, and the broader Oakland community to say thank you to each of you. You've put yourselves out there. You've put yourselves into the spotlight and committed to tackling some of the biggest problems that face any leader of any major city in our country. Thank you. We are very grateful for your civic service. So before I introduce Mr. Fraser, I want to call out some of the folks who worked incredibly hard to put this event together last week. I can't mention everybody, but there are a few who I want to call out. Mr. Tierman, Elizabeth Owen, Sam Behetti, Mark Schneider, Antonio Gallegos, and Mary Fahey. Thanks very much. And now our moderator and the brains behind this event, Matt Fraser. Matt has led our debate program for more than 25 years. And during his time, the Head-Royce debate program has risen to national prominence under his guidance and inspiration. Many people, however, don't know that Matt was the subject of some controversy when he was your age in high school. True story. Matt gave a speech that landed him in the national news and in front of the United States Supreme Court. After the speech, U.S. Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens was so impressed that he referred to Matt as, quote, an outstanding young man with a fine academic record. However, his esteemed colleague, Chief Justice Berger, in the final decision of his illustrious career, characterized Matt as, quote, a confused boy, and said that he gave speeches that were, quote, plainly offensive to both teachers and students, indeed to any mature person, end quote. So to the candidates, good luck, have a great forum, and Matt, the floor is yours. That's awesome. It's great.
At very few schools could you approach your administrators with an idea like, I want to write to the campaigns for mayor and see if we can get them to come speak. But at this school, when I proposed that idea, after a couple of days of thinking about it, Carl Tierman said, go ahead, let's see, maybe one or two will show up. And so here we have the 5 candidates. we have who are leading in the polls. Rob and the whole administrative team, so many people got behind the whole idea. It's such a privilege to teach at this school where such a big idea can be thrown out and the headmaster of the school says, let's go with it and see what we can accomplish here. So a big thank you to Rob and Carl. I also want to address a very ugly rumor that this forum is really a means to recruit these 5 candidates to serve on the Board of Trustees of the Head-Royce School. I asked Rob about this rumor this morning when I just heard about it, and at this point I can tell you I unequivocally dispute that malicious, terrible rumor. In fact, Rob tells me that their invitations aren't even going out till next week. So thank you to the candidates for joining us today. This is the day before the election, and I believe this multi-candidate event is groundbreaking. When we invited these candidates just a week ago, not one of them asked for any promise as to how many voting-age Oaklanders would be here. They all accepted our invitation within 48 hours. But the candidates, I think, came here simply because we told them this would be a great civics lesson for Oakland students, and we would probably have some adults here as well. Of course, it turns out that we have a lot more voters here than anyone could have anticipated, but they didn't know that that would be the case. So on what is one of the most important political days of these candidates' professional lives, they are here with you to share their views. For these candidates, who on this day have shown a true deep commitment to public service and education by their very presence here, can I please have one big round of applause for all of our candidates. All right, you are not here to hear from me. We do have a few ground rules. First, can everyone please turn off your cell phones? Please keep applause to a minimum until we are done, as applause takes away our ability to hear the speakers and means that we'll get to fewer questions. Please, no applause after speakers or between speakers. Each candidate gets equal time to answer each question. There is one exception to that rule. Each candidate has one courtesy minute card. Maybe someone can hold it up, but I don't think they're using it yet. And that can be played on whatever topic they choose. If there is a topic that they feel they need to say more about, once and only once, after the other candidates have made their initial reply, they can invoke that card by holding it up for me to see, and they will have that extra minute. Speakers must stop when time is called. The speaker order on each question has been selected blindly and balanced so that by the end of 5 questions, each speaker's opportunity to speak early on a question or late is equalized. Answer periods will be 1, 1.5, or 2 minutes as time allows. And so now we begin. I will ask the first question, and our student questioners will ask the subsequent questions. Candidates, you have 2 minutes each, and we will begin with Councilmember Kaplan. Why are you the best candidate for mayor of Oakland, and what is your vision for our city?
Good morning. Thank you so much for coming here today and for being the most incredible community of people who care about the future of Oakland. My name is Rebecca Kaplan, and it's my distinct honor to serve the entire city of Oakland as your council member at large. I'm running for mayor to bring strong leadership for Oakland's future, for safer neighborhoods, for local jobs, and for a government that's responsive to the community. In my view, what Oakland would look like, should I have the honor to be selected mayor, is we'd have less guns and more jobs. We need to go after violent crime by expanding walking neighborhood beat officers and full deployment with expanded Oakland hiring for our police department. And we need to dramatically drive down unemployment and pair that with important projects like fixing our sidewalks and improving our community and filling potholes while we hire local people for those jobs. A little bit about myself. I grew up attending Orthodox Hebrew Bible School, and the first job I ever had was as a Bible teacher. I attended MIT as an undergraduate, where I was involved in the student divestment movement from apartheid-era South Africa. This was in the late 80s, and we had sit-ins and letter writings and all kinds of campaigns to get our school to get its money out of apartheid-era South Africa, and we won, and students were doing this all over the nation and made a huge change. I moved to California and went to Stanford for law school, where I had the honor to study with Michelle Alexander, who you may know as the author of the book, The New Jim Crow. And I am committed to ending this ridiculous spiral of incarcerating people for minor nonsense and then denying them jobs when they get out, which is destroying our community. I am the Oakland City Council right now. I'm its youngest member, and I would be honored to be your mayor. Thank you very much.
Two minutes to Commissioner Brian Parker.
Good morning, Head-Royce. All right, nice to be here. Reminds me of when I was sitting in your seats just a couple of years ago. So I went to a school much like this one, and it is one of the opportunities that helped define my life and the values that you all live around of diversity, scholarship, and citizenship. Sounded like those same values that I had at Quigley South, where I went as a young seminarian for high school. I think where we are right now is a tale of two cities. And we have one city in Oakland that has incredible opportunity, and another city where we haven't invested very much at all, particularly in the areas of education and economics. What this has led to are vast amounts of poverty in our city. That poverty has turned to hopelessness, and that's that hopelessness that now plagues us in the form of crime. So when we talk about having a safer city, yes, more police are part of the answer, and making sure that they're appropriately culturally sensitive, but making sure that we invest in schools all over our city and economic opportunities so that no matter where somebody lives in this city, they have a right to those two things. I think if you look at our divided city, the current government has failed to bring us together. So I am here as somebody that spent time in business and running a budget of the size of City of Oakland that wants to reach out and help unite us. I grew up in Stockton down the street, and I earned scholarships to Berkeley and then to NYU for law. I want to send a clear message to kids all over this city that where you start won't determine how far you can go in life. I'm convinced that if we get together, every kid in this city can have an education of the quality of Head-Royce. I commend you all for being out here and look forward to talking with you further. I hope you'll consider Brian Parker as your next mayor.
After Mayor Kwan, we will have Professor Tooman, and it's Mayor Jean Kwan.
Good morning. Head-Royce was in my district a long time ago when I was a council member, and I remember the debates over building the gym and the parking lot. So I want to thank the headmaster. I want to thank this school. I particularly want to thank your headmaster to his commitment to community involvement for you. When I was about your age, I was 17 years old. I was also on the scholarship at Berkeley, and I was tutoring in West Oakland. And I want to say to you that at that age, I was helping to change the world. I'd helped create the Ethnic Studies Department at UC Berkeley, and it started my road into politics and community activism. I want to continue to be mayor because when I came in as the first woman and the first Asian American, this is one of the toughest times in America's economy and one of the toughest times in the city. And in that time, I went from a $58 million deficit to 4 balanced budgets and keeping our credit ratings to a point where our revenues are $27 million over what we were predicting this year. I turned around the issues of crime, where now many of our more violent crimes are down about 50%. And it's not just a historic fluke. It is clearly a trend because we've reorganized the police. I've taken it to now over 700 police officers for the first time in 4 years. And they're different kind of police. They're police who look like the city and speak the languages of the city. I've also worked with young people and with the schools to make sure that the graduation rate, which is 50% in East Oakland, has got to end and is not acceptable. And we created 2,000 jobs this summer in one of the most peaceful summers of the city. There's a very good interview that the Chronicle did. If you want to hear a little bit more of us, I ask you to go in that to look at the tough questions. But I've got Oakland moving ahead. I've learned a lot being mayor. I want a chance to finish some of these particular tasks, and particularly eliminating what Martin Luther King called 50 years ago, these islands of poverty in the city, because there's no peace in the city without justice. Thank you.
Professor Joe Tuman.
Good morning. Oh, come on, you can do better than that. Good morning. Good morning. That's better. I stand before you as the only teacher of this group, 32 years of experience in a classroom at university level. I educate lots of people at San Francisco State who came out of the Oakland school system, so I can speak from the perspective of somebody who looks at the product that we turn out, the people that we turn out. And I can share with you, in spite of the nice rhetoric that we've heard, including from a former school board member, with respect, that we are failing these students right now. The literacy rate, reading and writing, the math literacy rate for them as well, is way under what it should be. That university is supposed to serve as a public university, all the Bay Area counties. 5% of our students are African American out of 22,000 students, and most of those are women. Where are those black male students that come out of Oakland? Well, they're not in university. If you look at the prison system in California, you will find they are disproportionately represented there, and there's a reason for that. And it has everything to do with what's wrong in Oakland, in spite of the rosy forecast that you've heard. It has to do with a school district that is not serving 20 to 25 high schools in this city in East and West Oakland. Graduation rates for those students that is minuscule, truancy rates, which means that they're not going to school, that is very high. They live in poverty. The worst crime in this city is suffered in their areas. And big surprise, they don't graduate from school. If you don't graduate from school, your options for getting a job, let alone a living wage job, are minuscule. And lots of these people sometimes end up on the street, where any of us in that situation would make desperate choices for survival, including committing crime. The mayor can say that crime is better, but the crime statistics do not bear out her claim. It's not down 50%. We are at 70 homicides right now. I think that's close to double. You can check me on what it is in San Francisco. Why is it worse here? Home burglaries are down a little bit in this city, but that's only because we've gone to private security. We have to do better, and the answers come. I'll explain how. Thank you.
Council Member Libby Schaaf.
Good morning. It is really an honor to be here this morning. My name is Libby Schaaf. I am born and raised in Oakland. I grew up in a family that was very committed to community service, so I've been doing volunteer work, community service in Oakland my entire life. Now, my first career was as an attorney at the largest law firm in Oakland, but I left that career to enter a life of public service. First by starting a volunteer program for the Oakland Public Schools, then becoming the chief of staff to the president of the Oakland City Council, working for Mayor Jerry Brown, who I'm very proud has endorsed me as the best candidate, the most qualified candidate to get Oakland moving again. This is somebody who knows what it takes to be an effective mayor in Oakland, and I'm very proud to have his endorsement. And then finally, I'm very proud to be the council member for this district where we are right now, District 4, where I have been a relentless advocate for public safety. Answering your question, my vision for Oakland is a city that is safe, that is clean, and has great educational outcomes for all of its students. And why should you believe that I will make the best mayor? I bring a track record of experience and real results in the complicated environment that is Oakland city government. And you've probably learned that your city government is at the bottom of the dog pile. It's got the county government, the state, the feds on top. So to get things done in Oakland, it's not just that you have to navigate Oakland's bureaucracy. You have got to navigate those other bureaucracies. I'm also endorsed by U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer, a great friend to have. And then finally, you should have confidence that I will be a great mayor because I'm a Jayhawk. My communication skills were honed by Dr. Enlow. My ability to defend my positions by Dr. Barankin. And Dr. Barankin, I still don't like the scarlet letter. And I fell in love with math, and I know how to balance a budget thanks to Kitty Epstein. So I'm very proud to be here at Jayhawk today. I hope to have your support to be Oakland's next mayor. Thank you.
The remainder of the questions will come from our student panelists. This second question is going to go first to Professor Joe Tooman. Let me invite up Patrick Toppin. Patrick is a senior who is a managing editor of the school paper. He volunteers with Oakland Youth in the First Tee program, and he's an accomplished golfer and cross-country runner.
Thank you. So Head-Royce has called this Oakland neighborhood home for the past 50 years. So my question is this: what do you think Head-Royce School, its students, and its families can do to best contribute to the city?
Okay, thank you. Not all of you who are here obviously are Oakland residents, but since you go to school here, I hope that you're still concerned about what happens to the city that surrounds your school. And in that sense, this answer is for everybody. This is a question that goes beyond, obviously, students and parents. It's a question about what everybody who lives in Oakland should do to improve this city. And the first thing I would say is hold our leaders accountable for the experience that they claim and the city that they have given you. Hold our leaders accountable for the public services that they're supposed to deliver, starting with public safety, but also demand more of education. In my introductory remarks, I mentioned the fact that the school system is failing students. You have someone up here who served on the school board. You have 2 city council members up here who have lots of experience with this and claim to have volunteered before. Why is the school system not better? And why is crime something that we have to outsource to for private security to solve? If you want to do better by your city, start by voting and also hold your elected officials accountable for better solutions.
We'll now hear from Mayor Jean Quan.
This school has a great tradition of community involvement. So I would ask you, as we ask public student graduates to be involved in some form of community service and to be involved in communities that are not up here. There are many Oaklands. There's probably dozens of Oaklands. We have new immigrants. We have a persistently high percentage of low-income people because this city actually believes in affordable housing and don't believe civically, don't believe the slogans. Take a look very deeply. Many people are going to try to pit schools and social services against police, and that's the budget decision we have to make as a city all the time. As I said in my beginning, there's no peace without justice until all children in this city graduate from high school, until everybody has an equal opportunity. We won't be one city, and we won't make the peace, and those solutions aren't easy, but be involved in your community.
Council Member Libby Schaaf.
I guess my answers are nurture your heart for service and nurture your mind for rigorous analysis. And don't just complain, but be part of the solution. I think especially young people underestimate your power to actually affect change in your community. Sense of service. Go out and volunteer on the ground. Connect and get to know people from different circumstances than yourself. Academic and intellectual rigor. Look at some of the issues that your elected officials grapple with and really get down and understand what all the issues are. Most of the answers are not simple. They are complex. Understand them. And then finally, don't underestimate your power. If you have an idea to solve a problem, propose it to somebody. You all sounded surprised that we all answered your call when you invited us to come to your school. Students, call your elected officials, propose things, take action. You can get things done.
Commissioner Brian Parker.
So I think the first thing, and starting with you, is to give some of us golf lessons who don't have time to practice enough. So I think it was President Kennedy that started the Peace Corps. And I think we have that same opportunity here in Oakland. What I'd like to do is start a Civic Corps. We clearly have to grow our budget, and we don't have enough money to get done everything that we want to get done. So we need to look out to the volunteer army, which is you, and you're the next generation of that. Everything from being on a youth commission, to going and working and keeping our seniors company, to tutoring in East and West Oakland. Number two, innovate. Facebook was started, as were many other companies, by kids and young adults that were about your age. Lastly, we talked about accountability up here. Don't settle for the status quo. Your fourth core value that I didn't address in my opening was excellence. Be excellent in all you can do. Think outside the box. Innovate. Not only change this neighborhood, but change the world. Thank you.
And finally, Councilmember Rebecca Kaplan.
Well, the first thing I would say about how to decide how you want to get involved is keep in mind what excites you. Not everybody has to be involved the same way. It's important to commit to supporting community, including, you can help build community gardens. You can volunteer with community organizations to fight for change. As a student, besides fighting to get rid of investments in apartheid, we also lobbied successfully to get my university to pass a sexual orientation non-discrimination policy at a time when that was considered an unusual thing for them to do. You can shop locally. You can run for office, and you should seriously consider running for office. You can become a teacher, and we need great teachers. As you know the power of a great teacher. And lastly, I want to say you can vote yes on BB. BB on your November ballot tomorrow will fund free bus passes for all our school kids, will fund affordable housing on transit corridors, will double our pothole filling money. So you can vote yes on BB to also improve our community. Thank you.
The next question will have a 1.5-minute response time. It will first go to Councilmember Libby Schaaf. This is going to be offered by Nick Tubach. Nick is a junior who is a nationally competitive debater on the Head-Royce debate team. He's also an accomplished pianist and musician.
The merits and challenges of a candidate's status as either an outsider or insider have been heavily discussed by some of the candidates in this election, and as recently as yesterday in a lengthy article in the Contra Costa Times. Do you consider yourself an insider or an outsider? If an outsider, given that the job of mayor requires significant networking and support within the city government, how will you actually be able to implement your ideas? And won't entrenched groups unite to oppose you? If an insider, why have you not been able to make more substantial progress against the significant problems that face Oakland today? And why will the future be any different?
That's a great question. I'm excited to answer it. Would you hire somebody, or would you have a doctor perform surgery on a loved one who didn't have experience? Experience does matter. And so the insider-outsider, I think, is somewhat of a substitute for saying whether or not you have experience. The question about what is the role of a council member versus a mayor is something that I don't think has been talked about enough. The charter is the law of the land for the city of Oakland. It's like the US Constitution for us. And it actually prohibits by law council members from interfering in administrative affairs. Council members pass laws and policies. We pass the budget. But we don't even have the power to make sure that the budget we passed gets implemented. I've been really frustrated as a council member that I passed a budget last year to hire a certain number of police, and the administration failed to hire enough police, even though there was money sitting there. Last year we had 64 vacancies in our police department. The money was budgeted for by the council, but not implemented by the mayor. And so those are very different roles. Frankly, I think Oakland does not need a lot more laws or policies. We need action. We need implementation. We need change. That is where my skill set is. I am the one council member who's actually giving up my job on the council to run to be the mayor of Oakland. That is how different the jobs are to me, and I am really ready to make some change for my hometown, for Oakland. Thank you.
We will now hear from Council Member Rebecca Kaplan.
Thank you. I'm really glad you asked the question, because this has been something that the less youthful people have not fully understood the silliness of. Do you remember when John McCain was trying to run as an outsider after being in the government his entire life? So at different moments in the campaign, different people have claimed to be outsiders depending on if they thought the audience they were in front of wanted to hear that you were an outsider. But the reality is, as soon as anybody is elected, they then start to they then are on the inside, and the question is, what do you do with it when you're on the inside? When I ran for the Oakland City Council in 2008, I was opposed by the entire Old Boys Network club of politicians who'd been controlling the elections for decades. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to prevent me from being elected, and in 2012, they spent money to put out lies saying I had voted to lay off cops after I'd voted no. So the Insider Network has fought against me being elected, and I won anyway by 62% of the vote. The people of Oakland want to know that we are committed to Oakland's betterment, and my commitment is to never kowtow to anybody based on wealth or privilege or insider connections, but to do what's right for the people of Oakland, to put Oakland businesses first in contracts, to put Oakland residents first in employment. And as a city council member, I have fought for those policies, and as mayor, I will make sure we implement them, so that the question is, do you stand for Oakland? And I will. Thank you.
The question now goes to Commissioner Brian, is that right? Yeah, Commissioner Brian Parker.
So I think that is the question, the insiders and the outsiders, and you're going to hear Joe talk about this as well. You may have noticed a few weeks ago we had a news conference down at City Hall where we talked about insiders and outsiders. And I do agree with Councilwoman Schaaf when she talks about experience being what matters. And so let's review. Let's look at an overall unemployment rate of 12%. Let's look in East and West Oakland and see it's 30%. Let's see our kids overall graduating from Oakland high schools at 62% and 100 people being murdered a year. So don't tell me that there are differences between legislative and the mayor. If you have been voted in by the people, you have a job to do, and it clearly hasn't been getting done. Let me talk to you about experience that does matter. I have a long track record, including managing a budget the size of a city. And over the last 4 years, I took a division of this healthcare company, and I grew up from $400 million in revenue to $800 million in revenue. Added jobs, including right here in Oakland, up at MacArthur Square, which are good living wage jobs. In addition, I served as chair of our Workforce Investment Board and helped turn that around. I'm a port commissioner, helped refinance our debt, so we're now saving $50 million a year. Led the search for our new CEO, and I'm on our jobs committee. San Francisco Chronicle, which gave me their exclusive endorsement, called me a fresh approach to government with business acumen and secure policy grounding. And former state senator Don Parada, who endorsed me last week, said that I am the candidate that gets stuff done.
We will now hear from Mayor Jean Quan.
I have to tell you, most of my life I haven't been the insider. So when I was 17 and we closed down Berkeley to get ethnic studies, I was an insider. When I was one of the first women organizers for the Service Employees Union to organize immigrant workers, I wasn't an insider. When I became the first Democrat and the first minority person elected in this district, I was not an insider. When I ran for mayor, and no one thought we'd win because Don Prada had a couple $1 million of soft dollar ads going, I was not an insider. And so I'll take my record. So I'll ask you to look at my record. Look at the city's finances, where they were, where they are today. Look at the billions of dollars I brought in projects at the Oakland Army Base, at Brooklyn Basin, and now Coliseum City. Look at my record in reforming the police. The Oakland police have almost now finished their task under the federal judge. And when I walked in, I was told I had 18 months of the police department would be taken over. The Oakland young people, I've created 2,000 jobs for young people this summer, most since the 60s, and we had one of the most peaceful summers. So I want you to look at actually what I've done, because for the first time in a long time, more Oaklanders think that the city's going in the right direction. And I think if I'm going to be blamed for everything that's gone wrong in the last 10 years and the poverty of the city, then I should get full credit for the good things that have happened in the last 3 years. That's only fair. Thank you.
And the last word on this topic will come from Professor Joe Tooman.
Well, let me answer this question by answering it directly. I am an outsider. I have not held elective office before. I proudly wear that garment before you. I come with translatable skills to be mayor. Here's what they are. First, I've been a department head in a university that's a state organization, a state entity. I actually manage people. I manage staff, I manage faculty. Many of the people I manage have the letters PhD after their names, which means they all think they're smarter than me. And I have to learn to manage, and I had to learn to manage them collaboratively. By the way, they're not smarter than me. I also come from somebody who deals with schedules, has to live within budgets, and here's the key difference. Manage those budgets and still not compromise the quality of service that I'm supposed to deliver for the state of California in terms of education. That's a translatable skill for a mayor. You have to learn how to manage collaboratively with the recalcitrant city council. You have to learn to live within that budget and not compromise the quality of the service you deliver. I'm unique in this particular field with having that skill set. Libby said, would you hire somebody? I'm going to play my card here, so give me an extra minute. Libby said, would you hire a doctor who didn't know how to operate? My question to you is, would you continue to hire a doctor to do surgery when they failed in the past? That's the question. The mayor says there's no peace without safety, without justice. I say to you today, there's no peace in Oakland if the city is not safe. And here's the reason. We live in a city, I know I'm beating on the same drum here, but I've got to get your attention on this issue. We live in a city that has a reputation for not being safe. In some parts of the city, it's safer than others. But even in those parts of the city, the police do not come when you call because we don't have enough police officers. We invest our money in social programs to retard violence, but we don't measure those programs to see if they actually work. The long-term solution on this is to staff up to 900 police officers. I'm the only candidate as an outsider who said he'd do that. I'm also the only person who knows and understands that economic development, which means attracting private business investment to Oakland, grows jobs and creates tax revenues. And in the long term, the only way we're going to solve the problem of crime and change the narrative for Oakland is to address housing, putting roofs over people's heads, to draw jobs here by drawing more businesses here who won't come unless we address crime and unless we do meaningful participation with our school district. 32 years in the classroom, I'm not going to forget I was a teacher on that one. I am an outsider, and I'm exactly what this city needs at this time.